Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be looking through my first comic, Stardust, sort of revisiting it, talking about what I do differently with it. And if you guys want to support my channel and support my comics, then down below in the description is the Indiegogo link for my new comic called Secret Comics Presents. It's a collection of 4 stories written by me, drawn by Jason Robinson. And we've got about 41, maybe 42 days left on the campaign. We're close, I think, to 35% of our goal or so. So that's down below in the description. Secret Comics presents my 3rd ever comic, my newest comic, newest and best comic. So please check that out, you guys. But today we're going to be going through Stardust and looking at what I do differently. I still think it's a pretty good comic for a first ever comic. When I wrote this comic, because we were launching it on Indiegogo, doing a crowdfund, I knew I was better at telling a longer story, and I wanted to do a shorter story just because I didn't want to do a campaign for, like, this is issue 1 of 10, and then we end up not funding, and then so, like, just nobody gets the series, and that's a little embarrassing. It's not embarrassing if you're like, this is the only issue, and then it doesn't fund, and then it's just like, okay, well, you know, not a lot was lost. So that's why I just did this as a one-shot. I think it's an alright story. I think Trixie is better because it's Stardust is 28 pages, Trixie is 60, and it's gonna be a series. There's gonna be like another 1 or 2 more issues. So I think with like a longer story, I do better. Shorter stories, not so much, and that is why Secret Comics Presents, down in the description, is a collection of short stories, because I wanted to prove myself. I think I improved on my short story writing. Short story writing is very difficult. It's a lot harder to tell a really good story in such a small amount of pages, and that's why Secret Comics Presents. It's 20 pages, 4 stories, and I think I really improved on my short story writing. So that's why we did short stories for it. And down below in the description, like I said. But the thing about Stardust is I'd written a bunch of comics. I'd probably written like 300 comics before I wrote Stardust. But the thing is, those comics were all meant to be like a long ongoing series, you know, like 20 issues or more. So when it came to doing this Indiegogo, and like I said, I didn't want to do like a 20 issue Indiegogo. I just wanted it to be like just one and done, just to test the waters, see how things would go. And so when I was talking to Sean, I'd known him for a little bit through a Facebook group for artists, and I had known him for a little bit, really wanted to work with him, loved his art, he had good rates, and I wanted to work with him. And when it came time to work with him, I needed to do just a one-shot, and I was struggling. I was like, well, what can I do for a story that's just 20 pages? And then so I talked to Sean, and I was like, well, Sean, you know, I explained to him what I wanted to do, and, you know, just do an Indiegogo, just 1 issue. And I was like, so what do you want to do? And he's like, something with aliens, maybe? And I was like, aliens? I don't know the first thing about aliens, but I was like, okay, I'll do an alien comic. So I wrote this 20 pages, and I sent it off to Sean. And we also have a couple short stories in the back to make it 28 pages, I think, or 28 pages. But sent it to Sean, and he liked it, so, you know, he started drawing it. And during the book, when he was like halfway through, I was getting real nervous. I'm like, but what if people don't like the issue? So I sent it to like a few other people. I was just like, hey, who wants to read my script? And I sent it to people, and I was like, do you guys think it's good? I'm worried people might hate it. And everyone was like, yeah, it's good. No one really had any complaints. So I wonder if I just sent it to a bunch of yes men. That's not to diss anyone I sent it to, but I'm just wondering if maybe I sent it to some yes men, because all the good feedback came after I printed it and sent it out to people. The feedback, the overwhelming majority of feedback was positive. Actually, it was very few people that didn't like the or that didn't like the book. My little sister included. She didn't like it at all. But there was just a couple people that gave me some feedback in private, and they told me you know, what I could have done better. That is why from the first print to the second print, there's just a few pages with like small dialogue tweaks. One person, when they read Stardust, they were like, what is this dialogue? Is it the amateur hour? And that just kind of got to me. A couple people didn't like the dialogue, so I pulled the George Lucas. I did some tweaks when it came to here, but the art and story is all the same. There's just a couple pages with different dialogue. Going from the first print to the second print, just a few small changes there. But my biggest change, really, what I would do, and this isn't to like trash on the book because I still think it's a good book worth your guys' money for sure, if you guys wanted to buy it. But the thing about Stardust is I knew nothing about Lovecraft when I wrote this, and when everyone was seeing the art, they were like, "Oh, is this Lovecraftian?" Because it looks just like Cthulhu. But no, it wasn't. And this is like a weird thing to say, but like I wish I could go back and make it Lovecraftian. Like that's like, I mean, usually when people go back, like, yeah, I wish I could fix this story point. For me, I'm like, my big thing is I wish I could make this more Lovecraftian. I wish I could have given it that Lovecraftian feel. But there really are just a couple things I would change, and this isn't really to criticize myself or the book. This is just I thought this would be a fun retrospective to look back on the book. But basically, the thing I would change is, well, let me get you guys caught up for those that haven't read it. And if you haven't read it, major spoilers ahead. So if you wanted to just buy it, then I guess don't watch this video because there are major spoilers. But anyway, so it's about this alien ship that crash lands here on Earth. And basically, they all get hunted down, but one alien escapes. He starts watching this family, starts studying them. By the way, these are some of my favorite panels up here. The squirrel that its head gets bit off, but so he starts watching this family, and out of jealousy, anger, rage, payback, he goes ahead and kills the family. And this is like one of like my only two changes I really think I should have made, and really the changes are back to back. The first change really is I think I should have given him a better motive. It's a valid motive, I suppose, to be like, like, oh, they killed my people, so I'm going to kill their people. But I think it could have been built up a little bit better. I mean, that's the problem when you're working with limited amounts of pages. But, it works. I haven't had any real complaints about his motive, but, I mean, I might just be nitpicky here looking back on it. Oh, that's another sweet shot right there, ripping off the heads. But, so this is where this girl here gets traumatized because she watches her whole family die. And so what she does to stay alive is she starts to tell him a story that keeps him entertained every night. And she tells him this fantasy story here, and every time he wants to kill her, she just starts to tell him more and more of the story. And it builds her some time until here he kills her again, and that's an awesome page right there. You see it through the window, see him decapitating her. But my other change I would do here would be really that I would build up that story a little bit more, and the intensity here, it just wasn't very intense. I'm not really going to go through the short stories in the back. We'll take a glimpse at them. There's about 7 or 8 pages here of short stories in the back, and I think really maybe the short stories should have been cut, and maybe those extra pages could have gone into like the start and middle of this book, just developing who this alien is, some more about him, some more about his anger and his motive here for attacking these people. And I think the story she tells him could have been built up a little bit more. It just could have been a little more dramatic. But I mean, again, that's how it is when you're writing a short story. There's only so much you could do with the space you have. But just looking back, I think that's something I could have done better. But there's also a point about the ending, which is basically his people come back for him, and then he it turns out he's made out of stardust, and that's where we get the title Stardust from. But the thing is my friend Tim Lim pointed this out to me. He was like, how about for the ending instead, after it was printed and stuff. This is actually a few months ago. He was telling me about this. He was like, I thought for the ending what he was going to do was he was going to tell them a story to keep himself alive. And I was like, Tim, you just put me to shame. That's such a great idea for the ending. But, I still am happy with Stardust. I'm still happy, how it turned out. It was a success. People like it. People still like it. Everyone tells me they like it. The feedback is usually always positive and never really negative. So, I guess we really did a good job. So my complaints probably aren't even valid about my own work. Maybe not. I don't know, because people do tell me how much they like it. I do think Trixie is much better written. So I mean, when we get here, really, there's like 1 or 2 pages, like max. I'm not even talking about plot points. I'm just talking about like 2 pages. The way they're like. The way they look really is what I would change. I'm very happy with Trixie. Happy with Stardust too. A little more happy with the storytelling in Trixie, just because, like I said, 60 pages, and there's going to be an issue 2 and probably issue 3. So I just had a lot more room to expand with it, and a lot more room to do stuff with it. So that being said, you guys. Secret Comics Presents down below in the description on Indiegogo. We really need your guys' support. We've got like I said, like 42, maybe 41 days left. So we still got a lot of time to go, but we really need your guys' support. So please check out Secret Comics Presents, and have a fantastic day, everybody.